Welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Ronnie Rios, product owner, Claris Connect, and I'll be your host today for this really exciting Claris Engage Beyond session, connecting clients to Claris Connect, presented by Kate Waldhauser, Managing Director at Portage Bay Solutions. But before we begin, we do have a few housekeeping items to help you have the best experience possible during today's presentation. We've put the WebEx support contact information and helpful links in the chat. So if you require technical support, please contact WebEx support using the contact information there. We also recommend using your computer audio whenever possible. If you have limited bandwidth, however, you can dial in using the provided telephone numbers. You can choose to do that, choose the audio connection by clicking the three horizontal dots at the bottom of the WebEx window to select how you want to listen to today's presentation. We recommend shutting down any other applications that may draw bandwidth so that you can optimize the viewing experience during today's session. And finally, during today's presentation, you will have an opportunity to ask questions. So to submit your questions, simply click to open the Q&A panel from the bottom right of the WebEx window, choose all panelists and type in your question. We'll cover as many questions as time allows us at the end of our presentation. With that, it is my great pleasure to introduce to you Kate Waldhauser, Managing Director at Portage Bay Solutions. Kate, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ronnie. Thank you so much. And hi, everybody. I am Kate Waldhauser, and I'm the Managing Director at Portage Bay Solutions. This is my first time speaking at Engage, so I'm just really honored and thrilled to be here. And a little bit about me, I work for Portage Bay. We are a Claris partner, and we have been for over 20 years. We're based in the Seattle area. I've also been a FileMaker developer and been developing professionally for 15 years, although I really got my first taste of FileMaker in 4.0 when my father, who's a citizen developer and photographer, taught me a little bit about editing layouts. That was my first taste. I'm also the co-founder of the Claris Connect user group. So we are the first user group that's entirely focused on Claris Connect, and we founded in January of this year. And I'm a member of WIT-FM, and that's Women Innovating Together. It's a nonprofit organization that supports women in technology, specifically on the Claris platform. And if you haven't heard about it, I highly recommend checking it out. And before I get started, I wanted to thank a few people. Firstly, I wanted to thank the John Newhoff, who's the other co-founder of the Claris Connect user group, and Portage Bay Solutions, and my wonderful team of developers and staff at Portage Bay. And Mark Baum, he has been my mentor through Diversitable, and he's been a great support and offered his guidance and helped me craft this presentation. So thank you, Mark. Thank you to the Claris Connect user group attendees. We have a wonderful group of people that attend and participate on a regular basis. And thank you for showing up and helping us all learn collectively. And as I mentioned, Diversitable is another great initiative that is helping to create diversity in technology by supporting minorities and providing mentorships and other opportunities around the Claris platform. And Claris, thank you for hosting this conference and giving us the space to all be here and connect and learn from each other. Thank you. So I'll dive right in. The question is, why is Claris Connect important? And I wanted to answer this with a statistic. So I found this statistic out here that 73 is the average number of business applications that a company would use to get their work done. And when I think about this and I think about Claris Connect, Claris Connect is built in order to, it provides us with this tool in order to tie together these third-party applications, right? We're doing API integrations and we're creating customized workflows that solve these real-life business problems. So this is a really important tool for us. And you might be asking yourself, why would I want to add Claris Connect to my toolkit? Perhaps, as I just mentioned, building workflows. You want to know how to build workflows effectively. So if you are interested in tying together different APIs and integrations, this is a great tool. If you're a seasoned FileMaker developer like myself and you're feeling comfortable with your FileMaker skills, but you want to expand your toolkit, then this is an opportunity to learn Claris Connect and what value it can add. And then this leads into, being able to meet your client's needs and make informed recommendations. As consultants, we need to know all the tools that are available to us and what types of problems might be solved by them so that we can make better recommendations to our clients. And I wanted to frame this presentation around my personal journey from Claris Connect curious to Claris Connect evangelist. And my hope is that I may inspire curiosity and new ideas about how to use Claris Connect to solve problems. So I will just jump right in and tell you, my journey started with getting curious. Then I explored the strengths of Claris Connect. I identified a problem, and then I solved the problem and began unlocking possibilities, and I engaged with clients. So when I got curious, it started with this image, and this probably looks familiar to a lot of you. This is the Claris, on the Claris website. If you go to Claris Connect, you see this image, and it just represents Claris Connect to me. I see all these different applications that I'm familiar with. I know my clients use. It's very intriguing. I wonder, well, how can I solve problems here? But it left could I do? When I see QuickBooks, can I create invoices? Can I send invoices? The next question was, what data can I deliver? I know with APIs, we have a certain, when an event happens, we have a certain payload that includes fields, but I wasn't sure which fields were going to be sent back or exchanged when I ran Claris Connect flows. Then I began to wonder, how is this different from other methods? As a FileMaker developer, I'm pretty comfortable using FileMaker to do API integrations. So I wanted to know, well, what value would I have in using Claris Connect over developing API integrations from within FileMaker? And then my last question was, well, what practical examples can I try? Because really the best way to get to know this tool and platform and product is to dive in and just get some real world experience. And that's exactly what I did. And I built my first flow in 20 minutes. And my first flow was for a client that had a solution where they wanted to be able to send and receive SMS messages and view a chat history from within FileMaker. So I built this flow using Twilio, which is a built-in app connector for Claris Connect. And it's really easy to set this up. If you don't have a Twilio account, you simply sign up. It's a free trial if you want to get started. From the dashboard, you copy the account SID and the auth token. And then going back to Claris Connect, you set up your flow, choose new SMS message, sign into Twilio, and this is where you're going to paste that auth token and account SID and hit sign in. And this is all that's necessary. Now Claris Connect is connected to Twilio and I can perform these actions. And this was pretty powerful stuff because this saved me, a ton of time in what I would have to do in FileMaker to set up that type of connection. So my next step was then after I'd received the message from Twilio, I wanted to just simply add a record in a FileMaker solution. And for that, I'm using the FileMaker connector to create that record. All I had to do on my FileMaker side was make sure that I had an account that was set up with the correct privileges and enabling the FileMaker Data API extended privileges to allow for that. And that flow is done. My next step was being able to send to send an SMS. This was a little bit more complicated. I was using a FileMaker button to trigger the flow. So I had written a script in FileMaker that was using the insert from URL script step to call the URL that had been automatically generated from Claris Connect. And then I'm using the Twilio send SMS connector in order to send that SMS via Twilio. And I wanted to do some error capturing. So I'm using the on error flow step here in order to check if there was a problem. Perhaps I entered a bad phone number, the data didn't come through. And I'm adding an error log record using that same create record flow step to add to my FileMaker solution. And I'm stopping the flow. And if there was no error, I'm adding that same SMS record successfully. And to see this in action, here's what it looks like. So from the FileMaker interface, the user can type in a message, hit send, the flow is triggered, the SMS is sent via Twilio, the message shows up, and a user can reply on their mobile phone, triggering another flow, sending the SMS, and we saw the message show up there as well. So this was pretty cool to be able to build this so quickly and have success in building my first flow using Twilio. And this led me to really wanting to explore the other strengths of Claris Connect. And for this, the first strength I saw was real-time data exchange, and that's using webhooks. And I'll touch more on that later, but for now, it's just important to know that what we saw right there, it's having this real-time data exchange so we can view the chat history in real time. And in terms of performance, I think one of the benefits of using Claris Connect over what we've typically used perhaps is using some other method such as a server-side scheduled script in order to use an API and pull for information, which is using unnecessary resources, as I'll show you later. This is something that Claris Connect can improve upon and enhance performance by offloading that onto Claris Connect. In terms of security, what I'm referring to is, we no longer have to store, if we're using Claris Connect, we don't have to store the API key or other credentials within a FileMaker solution. We can store that. That is all managed by Claris Connect. So we're enhancing our security by relying on Claris Connect. And API connections without FileMaker. I know that, Claris Connect and FileMaker are really made to work together. It's a really seamless workflow. But we can also design workflows that don't use FileMaker at all, such as a new Calendly event comes in and a Slack message is sent out. And in terms of deployment timeline, we'd have, there's always clients that or solutions that need to be deployed quickly. And this is where one of the huge strengths of Claris Connect is the ability to build these flows really quickly, and we can deploy quickly as well. And Claris Connect also uses, this step-by-step flow. And as you'll see, it's very similar to another structure that we're familiar with as FileMaker developers. So I found this definition in the FileMaker Data API documentation, and it states, a FileMaker script is one or more instructions, script steps that you define to automate repetitive or difficult tasks. And as I read this, I realized that another word could be substituted, and I read it as a Claris Connect flow is one or more instructions, flow steps that you define to automate repetitive or difficult tasks. And this helped me connect the dots and gain a better understanding for Claris Connect flows, as I'm very familiar with FileMaker scripts. So I'm going to jump back a little bit and dive into webhooks a little bit more thoroughly, as this really is one of the core components, in Claris Connect, and I think it's important to get a grasp on it. So a webhook, also called a web callback or an HTTP push API, is a way for an app to provide other applications with real-time information. And really what we're talking about here is two applications. We have a source application and the receiving application, and it's a way of communicating between the two in real time. So a webhook URL has several components to it. And the webhook URL, it really is what we're programming it in order to talk to one another. And it's an HTTP callback via post. So that's the method it's using to communicate. It passes a payload in JSON or XML, although for Claris Connect, we're dealing strictly with JSON payloads. And it uses a custom callback. And this is kind of another where the magic comes in Claris Connect, because Claris Connect is generating this URL for you. It's the listening component, it's the receiving component, it's doing all that work. And all we need to do is give that URL to the source application and tell it, okay, when this event happens, call Claris Connect. And that's what it does. And then sometimes webhooks are also referred to as a reverse API. And I'll explain that a little bit more. Oops. There we go. In this image here. So I wanted to demonstrate and show you kind of the difference between polling and webhooks. So the image on the left is polling, and this is what we do when we have a scheduled server-side script set up and running perhaps nightly. And I'm going to use Shopify as an example here. So, or perhaps hourly, let's say. So every hour you have a script running on your server that's using the Shopify API to check for new orders. And it runs and it checks, is there anything? Nope, nothing. Anything? Nope, nothing. And then finally it just says, oh, there's some new orders, and it starts to pull and process those new orders. The difference is with webhooks, we don't have to do that polling. So we've already programmed Shopify with that URL. We programmed it to say, when this event happens, when a new order comes in, call this URL, pass the payload, and then the webhook is sent and the order can be processed. So it's a lot more efficient. As you can see, we don't have any wasted resources, and it's a pretty powerful concept here. And it's really exciting to be able to see this in action. And the other great thing about webhooks and the webhook utility in Claris Connect is that we're not limited by only the built-in app connectors. So there's a great number of built-in app connectors, but with the webhook utility, we can connect to any web application out there that provides webhooks, and there are lots of them. This is a really small sampling of some I just chose, but this is not limited by any means. There's a lot out there. So I had some success with creating my Twilio flow. And this is when, I really needed to dive in and learn more about Claris Connect, because I didn't know a lot at the beginning. And I used blogs, and I also really wanted to learn about webhooks. And for this, I relied on some blogs and video presentation by Wim Decourt, where he's called, it's called Get Hooked, I believe. And it's really valuable educational information describing in detail more about webhooks. Documentation, especially the API documentation for other connectors that you might want to use, is still important to learn and to understand if you want to dive a little bit deeper into those APIs. And the Claris Connect user group. I know I'll get a little bit into more detail about this later, but we have a wonderful user group. We meet monthly, and we have a segment where we actually do a connector of the month, and we dive into one of the pre-built connectors, and we look at the different actions and what data can be exchanged, and we learn together. So I highly recommend attending that. And I think in terms of learning, like I did, diving in and getting a grasp on a connector, on one that's commonly used by yourself or your client, and really practicing is the way to kind of get used to this new product. So my next step was I identified a problem at Portage Bay that Claris Connect could solve. And so this was a real world business problem. We use Teamwork as our project management application. It's a web application, and it's really great. We can create tasks and communicate with our clients. And I can add a simple task list like the one seen on this slide. But for our business requirement, we wanted our tasks to be prefixed with this alphanumeric number, because that's sometimes how we reference our tasks and communicate about them. So I needed it to have a project code followed by a serial number within brackets. And this was not a native or built-in feature in Teamwork. So I had to come up with a solution. So I knew, okay, I need to transform this task list into one that looks like that. And knowing that FileMaker can manage serial numbers and a database of tasks, I knew FileMaker was completely capable of that. And I knew that Claris Connect could take care of the real-time data exchange using webhooks. I had a solution. So I built another flow. And for this one, I had the Teamwork webhook as my trigger. And Teamwork offers lots, like hundreds of different webhooks out there. So I just chose to use the one that was the new task creation. And I connected that to the webhook URL that was generated from Claris Connect. And then I used some conditional statements here to check if the task that had just came in had this project code. Then I would perform my next action, which was to add a new task record in my utility file. And my utility file was a simple FileMaker file that I had built, and nothing really special there, just adding the tasks and tracking that database and using some simple calculated fields to generate the next serial numbers. So then I had used the get record flow step to get that new task name. And then I'm using the HTTP put request flow step to push my new task back to Teamwork and to rename it. And then I'm replying with JSON to simply close the flow and reply with a status code of success so that Teamwork knows this webhook completed successfully. And to show you this in action, in Teamwork, you add a new task, type in the task name. It sits there for a second as the flow runs, and then you'll see it renames itself with the new task numbering. So this was really exciting. I had solved it. I had implemented a real world business solution. I'd eliminated data entry. Nobody needed to go in and type in these serial numbers, and I built a solution that could be replicated elsewhere. The obstacles I encountered were pushing the data back. So I showed you that HTTP put request, and this is where I had to reference the Teamwork API documentation in order to know what Teamwork expected from me in order to make that call. And when I solved this, I began to find other problems that could be solved using Claris Connect, and I started to imagine other possibilities. So we use a lot of notifications such as SMTP emails or other types of notifications that are sent out from within a FileMaker solution when an error happens or other types of events that we need to be notified about. And the idea occurred to me that I could offload that and stop storing those credentials within a FileMaker by simply using a Claris Connect flow that used one of the email connectors to send those types of notifications. Scheduled scripts. So Claris Connect also has a trigger that is a schedule trigger. So similar to setting up a scheduled script on a FileMaker server, where we can define the schedule and when it should be called, I can do that from Claris Connect with a lot more, a different type of setup there, but the similar idea. I can set up those and call my scripts from within Claris Connect. So that opened up another door of possibility of what could be done. And in terms of syncing solutions, we can have offline databases that need to pull data from a hosted solution. We can use Claris Connect as the tool to pull down data. We can also have two hosted solutions that perhaps we don't want connected to each other for security reasons. And Claris Connect can be in the intermediary there, connecting these two and transferring data that way. And this was, so I had a lot of success, and this is when I became an evangelist and I started a user group. So the Claris Connect user group is 100% virtual. As I mentioned, all we talk about is Claris Connect. We have the Connector of the Month segment. We've started a new segment called Show Your Flow, where we break out in small groups, and you can bring a flow that you might want to troubleshoot, or an idea for a flow that you want to build, and we are kind of working in a traditional sense of a user group, and we're debugging and looking at these issues together. We have over 100 members now, and we also are lucky to have some Claris Connect representation pop in occasionally and support the group, and so we're happy to have that as well. And now I engage our clients about Claris Connect. So what we did at Portage Bay when we had all the success with Claris Connect was to start with our repeat business, because there's no business like repeat business. And so we went through our client list, and we really looked at each client and analyzed their business and what we knew about it and what problems we thought Claris Connect could solve for them and what workflows could be automated. And we came up with some personalized marketing. So we wrote out emails where we described to our clients, which problems we thought could solve, and we told them about Claris Connect and educated them. And we got really positive feedback from this. Several clients didn't even know this was out here. So it was up to us to educate and allow them and inform them about what was possible. And then this led to meetings with the clients. So we sat down and met with the clients and talked about their business. And what I recommend here and what I did is I brought the Claris Connect app directory up. So there's a directory that shows all the different built-in app connectors. And this allowed us to broaden the conversation, because I was made aware by the client of different app connectors or different business applications that they use that I had no idea they were using. And so I gained a better understanding of their business when I brought this and was able to have that conversation. And when estimating Claris Connect projects, we've had some success with this, and I wanted to offer some advice around this. So I recommend taking an agile approach. And by that, I mean either doing it connector at one connector at a time or one flow at a time, and breaking up the workflows into kind of a manageable areas there that make sense in order to look at this, because it's a different kind of project than FileMaker development. And thinking about troubleshooting, I built that Twilio flow really quickly. And then I went into Twilio and I changed a setting and something broke. And I had to go in and reconnect it. So, there's always going to be that troubleshooting as we go along and we're working with new technology. The details for each connector are really important because, and this is what I think when I mean understanding what the actions and what data can be transferred. I had a client that wanted to use the Outlook add event action. So they wanted to be able to add events to Outlook calendars and select which calendar they would add the events to. And when I looked in and understood the Outlook connector more, I saw I could only add events to the default calendar. And so that wouldn't work. And I had to rethink that and understand more about how I would solve that business problem. And considering pricing, we let our clients know development costs may be less up front, but there is the ongoing cost of Claris Connect. Although I think we've had really, there's various price points to enter for Claris Connect, and it's been pretty seamless in working with our clients. And addressing objections, I think we did have several clients that were on previous versions of FileMaker, which of course you need to be on FileMaker 18 or greater to use Claris Connect, since we're using the FileMaker Data API. So I approached this by talking about Claris Connect, about what problems we could solve, and then getting back to the requirement upgrade issue. And in terms of security, I think we can, this is such a great, well, if you watched the previous session and learned a little bit more about the SOC 2 report, this gives us more areas of assurance that we can talk to our clients and point them in the direction of the SOC 2 report, and let them know that Claris Connect is being monitored and supported 24/7 by Claris. I think there's a lot of area of security in Claris Connect that we can show and inform our clients about. And with Claris Connect in our toolkit, we increased our revenue and client engagement. So we had built robust solutions. This is a tool we could pick up quickly. It really doesn't have a huge learning curve. We can deploy faster. We can build these solutions quickly and get them to our clients quicker. And we can leverage our FileMaker skills. As I told you, it's this the way Claris Connect feeds into FileMaker is so seamless that it's a beautiful connection. And in terms of, we also became more trusted advisors to our clients. We had an enhanced toolkit. We had another service we could put on our website and say we can sell and we can help you work with Claris Connect solutions. And we had a better understanding of our clients' needs as we met with our clients, understood their businesses more, and we had a strengthened partnership with Claris as we dove in and really engaged ourselves into understanding this new tool, this new product, and built this user group. So to summarize my journey here, Claris Connect was launched, and if you're curious about Claris Connect as I was, I explored the strengths of Claris Connect, including webhooks. I co-founded the Claris Connect user group. On repeat, I attend the user group meetup monthly. I engaged with clients, and I sold Claris Connect solutions. So now I invite you to begin your own Claris Connect journey. If you haven't tried it before, please request the trial. There's a 15-day free trial for Claris Connect. And explore it. Start using those connectors, start building flows, and seeing what problems you can solve. And join our user group. Everybody is welcome to join, beginners, advanced users alike. We're a really friendly group of people and looking for new members. And sell Claris Connect. See what possible solutions you can have for your clients. And that's it. Thank you so much for your time. And please connect with me in the future through the Claris community or Portage Bay, and I'm happy to talk with you about Claris Connect and excited about what problems you have found you can solve with Claris Connect as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Kate. Wow, there's really a lot of great information there that I'm sure can help a lot of people, and I'm sure many of our participants today can relate to those. So as promised, we are going to take the next few minutes to answer any questions that you might have. So if you've got any questions thought, if not submitted, now is a great time to do that. But in the meantime, let's answer some of the questions that some participants have been sending over. We do have a question. I think there's a couple of questions asking about Diversitable. You had mentioned that at the beginning of the presentation. Could you tell a little bit more about what Diversitable is and what they do?
Yeah, so Diversitable is an initiative within a larger organization called Join Table, which is a nonprofit, and they're doing really great charitable things for the community. And Diversitable particularly is an initiative where anybody can sign up. It's geared towards minorities in order to create more diversity in technology, and it provides mentorship. So you'll be matched with somebody depending on what your needs are and what you want to enhance your skills on, an expert and somebody that will help guide you through it. And you get to set up a roadmap, and it's a great actionable plan in order to take the next step in your career journey and get support. And highly recommend it.
That's wonderful. We had at least two questions about the user group. What's the name and how can they find it and sign up for?
So it's just called the Claris Connect user group, and we are on Meetup, and we've also we're listing our events on the Claris events page, and we meet monthly. The next meetup is November 17th at 12 p.m. Pacific, and yeah, I think it's a great meetup, and I encourage anybody to join.
Thank you. And I think we posted a link to it in the chat, so it's notable.
Yeah,
do that.
I think so.
Yeah, I think it's great. Awesome. Got another question here. It's interesting. Let's see. Well, it's two questions, I think. Someone is asking, if they're starting out learning about Claris Connect, kind of like you did, but they currently don't have a problem right now, as you identified when you were doing this. Would you recommend that they use a hypothetical problem, or should they wait until they face a real problem to solve?
So I think that there's so many great built-in app connectors. I don't know the exact number already, but I know anybody looking at those app connectors will see something that they're familiar with, and most likely one that they're already working with. And so I guess my advice would be, looking at those list of app connectors, is there one that you see that you're using in a workflow already that you could enhance a workflow that way? And I think that could kind of unlock the doors to what other problems might be possible, or what other solutions may be possible.
Great point. An interesting question. Is there anything that Claris Connect doesn't do that you wish it did?
Well, that is a great question. I think it's on the verge of a lot of effort and resources being put into it, and I'm excited to see what's on the horizon and what's next for Claris Connect. I mean, it's still a relatively new product, right? It was August 2019, I believe, that it was launched. So I think we're dealing with something that's new and growing, and I'd love to see more app connectors and more functionality. But the webhooks are so powerful, the custom webhook utility, and I'm really enjoying exploring that and getting to take that to the next level.
Excellent. Thanks, Kate. We've got a couple of questions about pricing. So let's see. I guess we can summarize these. If you want to talk a little bit more about pricing, and I guess conversations with customers about pricing.
Yeah, I mean, there are several different price points to for licensing for Claris Connect. We have generally been using what's kind of the standard, or I can't remember the exact name of it now, but the standard pricing, which is for clients that already have FileMaker licensing, and it's like the $50 a month where you get 10,000 API requests. And I find that's a pretty good price point, and it's a really sufficient a number of API requests to do most workflows. Of course, it goes up upon there, depending on the size of the client and the number of flows and connectors that they're using. But it's been, we've had a positive response from our clients about talking about that price point and adding that onto their monthly bills.
Good. Excellent. Let's see, we've got a question here. There's questions about functionality. I guess a couple of questions about adding functionality, and maybe I can chime in here. Some questions about new connectors being released and kind of the how quickly would some of those, and if there's any plans on new releases for new connectors and new functionality for existing connectors. So I'll chime in a little bit here, Kate. While we can't comment on what's coming up next or anything like that, but we are actively looking at what connectors make sense for us to build and release. We constantly looking not only at just new connectors, but also existing connectors and how we can expand the functionality of those that are currently out there. If you have any particular idea, we really want to hear from our users, from our customers, and see which applications are you using, which ones would make sense and give you the most value, so we can look at those. And we have tools. You can go to community and absolutely submit your ideas in the idea section there. But you'll notice that we're also releasing a lot more often as well in Claris Connect. So constantly looking at new connectors to add in there. Right, let's see, got another one over here. Second. There's some questions here about how your journey of using FileMaker with Claris Connect, and kind of how difficult or how easy it was to get FileMaker to talk with Claris Connect. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
So I think, all the only work that needs to be done on the FileMaker side to prepare a file to be able to be used with Claris Connect is the same as preparing it to use the FileMaker data API. So making sure you have an account that has the correct privileges set, and what I mean is that extended privilege for FileMaker data API, and then that account also has a layout or whatever elements you might need necessary in terms of which fields and layouts you want your Claris Connect flow to be able to interact with. So it's really a security, going into that managed security and setting that up in order to, now I think I might be missing one other step about enabling the data API on FileMaker server as well, since maybe not, I think I'm thinking it through correctly. But it really isn't that much work. It's really pretty easy. And then using the connectors with Claris Connect, there are a couple different connectors. There's an on-premise connector, a cloud, FileMaker cloud connector, and FileMaker server connector. So there's 3 different ways that you might, depending on what type of FileMaker solution that might, but they all have the same functionality. You just choose which connector based on what type of FileMaker solution you're using.
Good, yeah, absolutely right. Okay, there's another question here, and maybe just to clarify to some people, looking if Claris Connect essentially help you be able to access an application's API without even having to learn the API.
Yeah, and I think that's really one of the huge strengths of Claris Connect that I hope I stressed, was that you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to know the API really much at all, if anything, in order to connect. And as we saw in that demonstration with Twilio, all I needed to do was add account, copy these IDs, and then I was connected. And then the way that Claris Connect processes these payloads and parses out the JSON means it's all perfectly in line there, and you can just select the values that you want. And it's really just about kind of being guided through the API, I would say. Claris Connect is doing all the hard work for you. And it could also be a good way if you're trying to get into working with APIs. It's a good introduction to understanding the APIs, because Claris Connect does kind of break it down for you and simplify the process. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. I think we've exhausted all questions, and I think it's a great time for us to wrap up here as well. Thank you very much, Kate. Once again, it's great. It's a lot of great content here, a lot of great information. Before we go, though, however, before we say goodbye to all of you, we really would like to invite you to join us for our upcoming session on November 16th. The future of the Claris platform. This will be hosted by Robert Halsey. Great. We'll have our VP of Engineering as well there. It'll be an amazing session. Please don't miss it. We hope to see you then. Excellent. Well, finally, we rely on your input to guide our planning for Claris Engage Beyond. So please, please, please complete the survey to let us know what you thought about Kate's presentation and what you'd like to see in the future. Once again, thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of the day.